Ladies and gentlemen, today has been a day of hectic political activity. The Maharashtra government is on shaky grounds today. Uddhav Thackeray, the chief minister, is facing perhaps the biggest test of principles and power. A Shiv Sena loyalist has decided to lead an audacious coup against his leader. Eknath Shinde has been associated with the party all of his political life. A four-term MLA, someone who's close to the Thackeray Parivar and a leader who wields immense clout amongst his peers and the public. There are at least 26 Shiv Sena MLAs and the count even varies to speculative 36 who seem to be holed up in a Surat resort, the Meridian Hotel, on the directions of Eknath Shinde, who's camping in with them. The minister and his team of rebels have been incommunicado since last night. Till this evening, the Shiv Sena could not reach out to him or get him to talk to even the chief minister. Even today, when Uddhav Thackeray dispatched his trusted aide and PA to Surat, he was first met with opposition, no permission to enter the hotel, and then Milind Narvekar's attempt to meet Shinde was not an easy one. But Shinde finally relented, and it wasn't good news for the Shiv Sena because the rebel minister was clear: no more compromise on the Hindutva ideology. Shinde sent the emissary back with ally with BJP or I leave ultimatum. So how did the Shiv Sena and Uddhav Thackeray get here? Only 16 MLAs turned up at the Sena meeting this evening, at least 26 to 36. That's the number. BJP insiders say 36, Shiv Sena 26, but that's where the number rests. The recent setback in the MLC elections only widened the rift within the party. Sena only managed to get 2 out of the 10 seats which were up for grabs. Not long before that was the Rajya Sabha setback. Cross-voting, cross-party, cost party a seat in the upper house. And the biggest obstacle that seems to crop up every now and then for Uddhav Thackeray is the soft peddling of the Hindutva ideology on which the party was founded. BJP, Raj Thackeray and many others have questioned Sena's alliance of convenience, in which the biggest casualty was the Hindutva push, including Eknath Shinde today, who nudged the CM in that exact direction. But if you ask the Shiv Sena, these optics are not going to deter them. They are confident their government is stable, Shinde will be back in their fold, and their Hindutva plank has seen no compromise. Listen in to what Sanjay Raut had to say.
एकनाथ शिंदे, नक्कीच एकनाथ शिंदे, मी म्हणालो की आमचे सहकारी आहेत, त्यांचे आमचे अत्यंत जिव्हाळ्याचे संबंध आहेत सगळ्यांशी. उद्धव ठाकरे यांच्या कार्यकाळात ते 2 वेळा प्रमुख खात्यांचे मंत्री झालेले आहेत, नेते झालेले आहेत. त्याच्यामुळे ही शिवसेना बाळासाहेब ठाकरेंचीच आहे आणि राहील. बाळासाहेब ठाकरे आणि हिंदुत्व हे आम्हाला जन्मताच मिळालेलं आहे. हे आमचं बाळकडू आहे.
Now, while the optics today spell doomsday for the Shiv Sena, but politics is just not about perception, it's also about arithmetic. So let's take a look at the numbers. The Shiv Sena has been reduced to 16 MLAs after Shinde's banner of revolt. Even if you combine those numbers with the Congress and the NCP, they still do not stand a chance. They stand at 107, way short of the majority mark. The BJP and its allies are just 2 levels above, but they are short of the magic number at 145. Now, if Eknath Shinde acts on his threat, that is a sure shot way for the BJP to assume power with their strength jumping up to 152, especially if Eknath Shinde can break away at least 37 of those MLA to avoid the anti-defection law. Now, many political pundits believe that it's just a matter of time before it's game over for Uddhav Thackeray. And that really brings me to the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight. Hindutva compromise costs the CM chair to Uddhav? That's the question and the debate. Maha Aghadi Revolt, that's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour first. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Well, breaking news coming in. There are tremors even inside the Congress party. 44 MLAs. There was a cross voting, and the Congress found itself losing an MLC. It also lost a Rajya Sabha opportunity in Maharashtra, and a meeting currently on. Everybody is in a huddle, and it's presided by H.K. Patil. 4 of their MLAs are not present at this meeting. No clue about their whereabouts for now. That's the big breaking news. The Congress 4 short. Going across to my colleague Sandeep, who joins me live on the News Hour. Sandeep, out of 44, only 40 attend this meeting by H.K. Patil. Is there nervous, perspiring leaders of the Congress party who are counting a flock at this moment?
See, as far as the MLAs are concerned, 40 was the number that, that MLAs had arrived out here at the meeting, which was presided by H.K. Patil. I'll show you the visuals. H.K. Patil is out there and Ashok Chavan is out there. All the senior leaders are out there and they are briefing media at this point of time. As far as the updated numbers of MLAs is concerned, 42 is the updated number that MLAs that have arrived out here for the meeting, and the 2 MLAs, Subhash Dhote and Vijay Wadetiwar, are not in India, and hence they will be reaching in India by tomorrow. So definitely at this point of time, Congress party seems to be safe. But yes, as far as MVA is concerned, it is a matter of trouble for MVA government, as maximum numbers of Shiv Sena MLAs are still in Surat. So definitely all the parties, whether it is NCP, whether it is Shiv Sena, whether it is Congress, all of them have issued an order to all its MLAs to get back to Mumbai from wherever they are, and that is the only reason Congress party has called out a meeting. And in fact, H.K. Patil had arrived here and took out an emergency meet with all its MLAs.
Well, difficult times for the Congress party. Rahul Gandhi at the ED, and now a head count on in Mumbai with the other MLAs from Maharashtra. Going across to my colleague Shivani, who joins me live from Surat. Information coming in that while Eknath Shinde is playing hard to get with Shiv Sena and Uddhav Thackeray, he's open to overtures from the BJP. Shivani, what's the latest information that you're getting from the Eknath Shinde camp? And is Devendra Fadnavis anywhere close by? Because his wife just tweeted, Ek tha kapti raja. And that tha was the emphasis that she made, which means it's goner for Uddhav Thackeray. That's what she hinted at.
Well, definitely here seems that the BJP is clearly claiming that it is the end of the Thackeray Sarkar, and that is why such tweet in fact has also come from Amrita Fadnavis and also the other BJP leaders, those who conducted press conferences today in Mumbai and across other places in Maharashtra. Those also claimed one thing, that there is some unstabilization that is taking place only because of Uddhav Thackeray's inconsistent behavior with the MLAs in the party, and that is why this day has come. In fact, early day in the morning, we saw a senior MNS leader also posted one thing, that the CM Uddhav Thackeray, who was not reachable to lot many MLAs, now those particular MLAs are not reachable to CM Uddhav Thackeray. So such comments are being made. Definitely, if we talk about the numbers here, Navika then clearly showcases inside the hotel what we are getting to know as of now, that there are 32 MLAs of the party Shiv Sena and other 4 independent MLA, taking the tally to 36. And what we are also getting to know, that more MLAs have already left Mumbai to reach out to this particular hotel in Mumbai. As you can see, still the barricading continues to remain at the place. Security is being beefed up, and not only outside on this particular ground, but what we are also given to understand, that there are cops placed inside at the floors where all of those MLAs are residing in. All of those are not carrying their mobile phones. Those mobile phones are being seized, and only it's Eknath Shinde and his PAs, those are communicating with all of those MLAs with alongside other people. Because here the sources
Shivani,
clearly say that
not a
Eknath
dull
Shinde-
moment in a reporter's life anywhere in the country, but certainly not in Maharashtra. More breaking news coming in, and this time from Mumbai, the Shiv Sena camp. My colleague Arunil joins me live from Mumbai. Arunil, we understand the Shiv Sena is now totally psyched, and we understand that there are poaching fears, and the remaining Shiv Sena MLAs are now being moved to a hotel. Can you confirm that for us?
Well, Navika ji, extremely dramatic day, one can say. And yes, the Shiv Sena basically weary of more poaching of its MLAs, will be putting up its remaining MLAs in a nearby hotel at Lower Parel. St. Regis is the name of the hotel where the remaining MLAs who have stayed with Uddhav Thackeray will be kept over there. One more important development that we would like to share with our viewers, Navika, is that basically Sharad Pawar, who was expected to come over here, he came all the way from Delhi. He was been considered as the main savior who could save this Maha Vikas Aghadi government, who could give those all important advices to CM Uddhav Thackeray. He didn't even come to the Varsha residence of CM Uddhav Thackeray. What he did was he directly went to his own residence and he called in all the NCP leaders who were present inside CM Uddhav Thackeray's meeting. Ajit Pawar, Jayant Patil, they were called at Sharad Pawar's residence. So whether Sharad Pawar in fact earlier in the day in Delhi made it very clear that this mess is of the Shiv Sena party, it is their internal problem and CM Uddhav Thackeray needs to sort it out himself. The NCP cannot help them in this regard. With respect to the numbers are concerned, when CM Uddhav Thackeray took an attendance of his MLAs earlier in the day around 4 p.m. only 16 of them were present. Instead, 13 only came firstly, and then 3 had to be called in forcefully later. That's what we understand from the Shiv camp. So clearly pressure and trouble mounts for CM Uddhav Thackeray and for Matoshri particularly, considering one of their close confidants, Eknath Shinde, was somebody who was handling Shiv Sena MLAs in all the hotels ahead of the Rajya Sabha polls, ahead of the MLC polls, and now he has gone to Surat.
Well, Arunil, thank you very much. Thank you, Arunil, Sandeep and Shivani for the big updates, and we'll keep coming back to you as we get more information. My friend Madhav also joining me live from Delhi. And Madhav, the parliamentary board meeting, is it still on? And any information coming out from that meeting at the BJP headquarters, or are they virtually behaving as if nothing is happening anywhere in the world, and they're concentrating on finding an NDA name for the presidential polls? What's happening there?
Well, Navika, you're quite familiar with the way in which BJP operates, and clearly the party's central leadership has been extremely tight-lipped today. In fact, as far as the developments in Maharashtra are concerned, they're waiting perhaps for a final word to come in from party leaders and BJP leaders, particularly from the state, including Devendra Fadnavis. There was a lot of speculation of Fadnavis coming to the national capital today. That didn't materialize. Now talk of him and leaders from Maharashtra BJP going to Ahmedabad and Surat. But very quickly, if I can show you, the stage is being prepared, as you rightly put it. There's been about a 2-hour long meeting of the parliamentary board here at the party headquarters, and any minute now we expect party president and senior leaders of the party to come out and announce who will be the candidate as far as the NDA is concerned for the presidential race. Remember, already Yashwant Sinha, who's a former BJP leader and a senior leader at that, has been announced as a face as far as the opposition parties are concerned. So who will be the face for the BJP, who they believe can better represent them? There's been a lot of speculation about a tribal and a woman being the. Is that what's going to happen at this point of time? Will there be another candidate, and who will that candidate be? Remember, the last choice as far as the presidential candidate is concerned is somebody who was from the scheduled caste community. There's a lot of talk of the scheduled tribe community being a given representation this time around. Whether that will happen or not, we'll be able to find out.
Well, and we all know Mr. Modi likes to spring up surprises, names that you could never have thought of. Maybe somewhere he thinks if he can be one up on all all the names the media has been speculating on, then that's the name he's going to come up with. Well, we leave it at that and wait for the official announcement. Thank you, Madhav, for joining me on the News Hour. Going across to my panel tonight, and joining me tonight, Prafulla Ketkar, editor of The Organizer, Vaibhav Purandare, senior editor of The Times of India and author of Nai Thakre and the Rise of Shiv Sena, Kishore Tiwari, leader of the Shiv Sena, Lokesh Jindal, political analyst Reshma Patel, who's the leader of the NCP. But my first question goes to Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, today I'd like to hear absolutely uncensored, what do you think about what's going on in Maharashtra? Is this time going to be once again a wrong number, or do you think this time Mr. Uddhav Thackeray has a lot to worry about? And if Mr. Pawar hasn't even dropped in at Varsha, then it seems like he's pretty much on his own.
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my esteemed panelists. You know, Shiv Sena today resembles a shivering cat painted with tiger stripes. And with every monsoon rain, the paint is coming off. And Navika, what is happening right now is not happening for the first time, nor is it the last. I mean, think about this for a second. What does it tell you about morality, conscience in politics when grown-up legislators are kidnapped and treated like kindergarten children? 27 of Shiv Sena MLAs are in Surat. 106 of BJP MLAs are going to be shifted to Ahmedabad. These MLAs are sworn to serve Maharashtra. ये तो गुजरात पहुंचे हुए हैं और अभी कांग्रेस और एनसीपी का तो पता नहीं क्या होने वाला है. हॉर्स ट्रेडिंग, रिजॉर्ट पॉलिटिक्स, पोस्ट पोल अलायंसेस, रबर स्टैम्प स्पीकर्स एंड गवर्नर्स, ऑल दिस वुड बी फनी if it wasn't so utterly tragic. Sena asked for votes on the basis of ridiculing both Congress and the NCP. Same was the case with JDS and Congress in Karnataka and BJP and JJP in Haryana. They fight like cats and dogs and convince the voters that they are politically and ideologically polar opposites. And as soon as the results come in, the two poles get sucked towards each other to form the core. Voters मंदिर के घंटे हैं क्या? जो आता है बजा के चला जाता है. I repeat, MVA conjured through a post-poll alliance with former adversaries is a total betrayal of the mandate. But I also have to say this, Navika, the BJP too tried to conjure up a post-poll alliance with a corrupt adversary. Remember that 3 a.m. swearing in? And remember Manipur 2017? The BJP had 21 MLAs in a 60-seat house. Congress had 28. And yet, the governor invited the BJP to a floor test despite the fact that it did not have a post-poll alliance with NPF 4, NPP 4, LSP 1 or TMC 1. Navika, politics is the most successful public sector undertaking ever devised. This is because the players know and understand Darwinian axiom, survival of the fittest. They are competing to survive. They are mutating to survive. And that is why it is foolish to invest so much time and energy watching from the sidelines what is essentially a roulette and spin. The players switch sides at will and no one loses in the long run. X is a prefix found most frequently in a politician's CV. Ex-BJP, ex-Congress, ex-BSP, ex-AAP, ex-SP, ex-CPIM, ex-TMP, ex-Sena. Pre-poll alliance, post-poll agreement, coalition dharma, caste arithmetic, regional agreement, local pact, religious deal. बोलते चले जाओ. These are all telltales, genetic markers of the disease called politics. Navika, just 10 seconds. As for Sena, thing is, once the tiger turns into a cat, it can no longer hunt. It can only sniff around for its next meal. Problem is, the Congress and the NCP have already pushed the milk bowls towards it. The only benefactor left now is BJP. और कोई चॉइस नहीं है सेना के पास.
किशोर तिवारी जी, अल्टीमेटली लौटकर घर को आएंगे, क्योंकि आपके यहाँ से जो गए हैं वो तो वापस लौटकर आ नहीं रहे. फोन हो गया, नार्वेकर जी चले गए, कुछ हुआ नहीं अभी तक. तो अब कुछ दिन बिताएंगे वो गुजरात में.
हाँ, वो आपने अच्छा बोला, लेकिन आप जो 40 का आंकड़ा, 36 का आंकड़ा बता रहे हैं, आप जो वो एक्सक्लूसिव फोटो बता रहे हैं उसमें तो 9 लोग दिख रहे हैं. अभी हमारे हिसाब से तो 31 लोग हमारे को कंसेंट दे चुके हैं, जिसमें से 21 लोग हमारे पास उपस्थित थे. अभी आपका आदमी 16 कहता है, ये कहता है. हमने तो लीडर ऑफ अपोजिशन का जो था हमारे नेता हाउस के उनको चेंज करते वक्त 31 लोगों की लिस्ट दी है। तो अभी उससे ऐसा लगता है कि 24 हमारे इसमें नहीं है। लेकिन जो रिबेलियन है एकनाथ शिंदे, यही बहुत हार्ड कोर शिव सैनिक है। लेकिन आपके चैनल पर जो आए हैं हमारे वैभव पुरंदरे जी, इनका तो मैं बात सुना अभी थोड़ी देर में डिबेट में कि दरबारी लोगों से कुछ लोग नाराज थे, नए चमचों से नाराज थे, मातोश्री की डायरेक्ट सत्ता आने से नाराज थे, और हमारे डीएनए के मिलने वाले जो एलाइज बनने से भी लोग नाराज थे। तो ये वास्तविकता है। लेकिन जो लोगों के नाम आप बता रहे हैं ना कि सूरत के होटल में है, जो अभी मेरे ख्याल से आसाम जाने वाले हैं त्रिपुरा के होटल में रात को, तो मुझे लगता है वो नाम देखने के बाद ऐसा लगता है कि शिवसेना के लिए ये गंभीर बात है कि हमारे इतने पुराने साथी इस प्रकार क्यों नाराज हुए। तो एकनाथ शिंदे जी ने जो भी निरोप दिया है वो उद्धव जी उसको सीरियसली लेंगे, क्योंकि एकनाथ शिंदे ये बहुत सीनियर मोस्ट लीडर है और हमारा तो रैंक एंड फाइल और पूरी कैडर को वही संभालते थे। उनके द्वारा ये कदम उठाने से हम चिंतित तो है, लेकिन मुझे लगता है उद्धव जी के नेतृत्व में सारा सेटल हो जाएगा, क्योंकि शिवसेना इस प्रकार के रिबेलियन एक्शन से बहुत उभर के आई है। तो मुझे लगता नहीं, सत्ता तो शिवसेना के लिए आते जाते रहती, शिवसेना से सत्ता चले जाएगी तो ये स्वार्थी लोग जो हमारे पास आए थे वो चले जाएंगे, तो और कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा। लेकिन मैं एक बात बताता हूं।
कौन से स्वार्थी लोग? किनको स्वार्थी लोग आपने कहा? एनसीपी को और कांग्रेस को?
नहीं, हमारे पार्टी में भी वो तो जैसे बीजेपी के 77 एमएलए एनसीपी और कांग्रेस के, वैसे हमारे पार्टी में भी बहुत एंट्री हो गई थी ना। तो हमारे पार्टी में एंट्री और चमचों के वजह से ये निष्ठावंत लोग नाराज हो गए, ये बात पे गौर करना चाहिए ना। मैं बता रहा हूं।
अच्छा, तो ये आपको पहले नहीं पता चला? एकनाथ शिंदे जी के जाने के बाद पता चला कि 2 दर्जन चले गए और दरबारी लोग जो थे वो पार्टी को खराब कर रहे थे, ये पहले नहीं पता चला, अभी पता चला? तो फिर तो आपको बीजेपी को थैंक यू बोलना चाहिए कि कम से कम आपको अपनी अंदर की बात तो समझा गए।
एक नाविका जी, जो भी होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है। हम इसमें से सुधर के निकलेंगे। अभी आप है ना, आप जो बोल रहे हैं ना, 40 इधर चले गए अर्थमेटिक वगैरह, वो चलने वाली बात नहीं है। ये सब लोग लौट के आ जाएंगे, लेकिन डिबेट वगैरह 2-3 दिन होते रहे या 7-8 दिन भी चले, क्योंकि अभी त्रिपुरा गए हैं तो आगे और उधर भी ऊपर भी जाएंगे, शिलोंग वगैरह।
Okay, there's breaking news. There's breaking news. We didn't know of a chartered plane which had gone to Tripura, but if there is a chartered plane that is headed to Tripura, I'd just like to tell my reporters to be absolutely on the job. हम तो अभी तक सिर्फ डेरा डाल के सूरत में बैठे थे, आप कह रहे हैं त्रिपुरा भी चले गए। But Prafulla Ketkar, you know, with the comments that have been made by Mr. Kishore Tiwari, isn't it very evident that somewhere they've been shaken to the core? The MLC, the votes that didn't quite add up for them, the fact that the BJP took it from under their nose, the fact that, you know, they lost, you know, a seat or 2 between the Congress and the Shiv Sena because there was cross voting. Do you think their guards were down? वो कई बार कहा जाता है ना कि आप सत्ता में होते हैं तो इतना खुमार होता है कि आपको पता ही नहीं चलता आपके घर में क्या हुआ है. Do you think the Shiv Sena made a mistake, let its guard down and didn't know what was happening in its own backyard?
Thank you, Navika. See, this coalition was always a bundle of contradictions. And it was always difficult for Uddhav Thackeray, and we have seen during the corona period, in fact there were various memes and mockery was done that he was stuck to Matoshri and he was not accessible, and even the health minister has said this on record. Please try and understand what Eknath Shinde is and why Shiv Sena is facing this entire problem. Shiv Sena, when allied with Congress and NCP, has compromised with everything that Shiv Sena stood for. Dynasty, Marathi Manus, Hindutva, anti-Congressism, the Sharad Pawar as the classic case of betrayal, and I have those quotes and the statements given by late Balasaheb Thackeray. Now Shiv Sena compromised with that. Now if you understand Maharashtra politics, in Maharashtra Eknath Shinde has a hold over Thane and Konkan region and some parts of tribal constituencies in northern Maharashtra. Now in entire this region, the fight on the ground is against NCP. Now if you see last two elections, Rajya Sabha as well as MLC polls, what is the outcome? NCP has kept its flock together. It is the Congress and the Shiv Sena who has lost their MLAs to BJP. What does it indicate? The only beneficiary of this entire experiment called Maha Vikas Aghadi is NCP. Shiv Sena is losing its ground on the ideological basis. Congress is losing on the organizational basis. Now if this is the case, then blaming BJP is foolishness. For me, it is clearly the ground level. Eknath Shinde is the person who understands the pulse of Shiv Sainik on the ground, and he is getting, many people do not know, Navika, but the first tussle that was started even within the cabinet against Nawab Malik, when Nawab Malik raised the issue of 5% reservation for Muslims, and it was Eknath Shinde who stood up. Uddhav Thackeray didn't take a stand. On Savarkar, Eknath Shinde took a stand. Now, if these are the issues, these are the core issues for Shiv Sena, and the moment Shiv Sena looks compromising on this, Shiv Sena is actually slowly, silently losing the ground, and that is what perhaps Eknath Shinde is standing against.
Well, let me ask Lokesh Jindal. Lokesh Jindal, the Congress has been on a declining trajectory virtually in every state, and that's the reality. Do you think NCP has kept its flock together while both the Shiv Sena and the Congress have lost? And many who were watching this alliance building in 2019 said, ye chalegi nahi bahut lamba. And today many of those same people are saying, ye to hona hi tha. I want to ask you, is there a sense that's coming out that as far as the Congress is concerned, the compromise has been way too much? As far as the Shiv Sena is concerned, the compromise was far too much, and it was really the NCP that was getting the benefit of this alliance and leading this alliance?
Good evening, Navika. First of all, I would say that all the MLAs of the Congress are very much intact. An official statement has been given by the Congress committee with respect to the Congress party being in touch with all the MLAs. Even with respect to the MLC election, all the Congress party workers, there was not any form of a cross-voting. In fact, all of them, they had voted Mr. Handore as the first choice. It was just that the BJP and its gimmicks of horse trading, whereby we could see that more than its electoral share, it had nominated members. And after that, BJP, it clearly came out with a result because it was already indulging into some form of horse trading. And then after this, we see suddenly now there is this particular issue of Shiv Sena coming into a split. But let me tell you, as rightly Mr. Prafulla pointed out, when we talk about the Maharashtra politics, it is not that of Rajasthan or it is not that of Madhya Pradesh, it is not that of other states. Shiv Sena is strong, it will remain strong, MVA is stable, there is no harm to it. It is just a time period and it will pass by.
Okay, it will pass by. I'm just pausing on this debate. We'll cut across to Mr. JP Nadda, BJP president, who's announcing the presidential candidate for the NDA. Let's just cut across to the BJP press conference happening at the headquarters.
और लगभग 20 नामों पर हमारे यहाँ लंबे दौर की चर्चा हुई और चर्चा में सब लोगों के साथ बातचीत करते हुए एक सर्वसम्मति इस बात पर बनी कि सभी नामों पर चर्चा हुई, विस्तृत चर्चा हुई, लेकिन कुल मिलाकर के ये बात सामने आई कि हमें प्रत्याशी के रूप में कोई पूर्व से ढूंढना चाहिए, भारत के पूर्वी क्षेत्र से ढूंढना चाहिए और हो सके और हमारा प्रयास हो महिला को हमको स्थान देना चाहिए। और आज तक कोई आदिवासी ट्राइबल प्रत्याशी राष्ट्रपति के रूप में नहीं आया है, इसलिए हमें ट्राइबल पर और पहली बार कोई ट्राइबल को भारतीय एनडीए की तरफ से हम कैंडिडेट बना सकेंगे ऐसा संसदीय बोर्ड पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड का मत था और इसलिए श्रीमती द्रौपदी मुर्मू इनको राष्ट्रपति का प्रत्याशी घोषित किया गया है एनडीए की तरफ से। और हम सब जानते हैं कि श्रीमती द्रौपदी मुर्मू जैसे राधाकृष्णन जी शिक्षा से जुड़े हुए थे, सर्वपल्ली राधाकृष्णन राष्ट्रपति के रूप में, उसी प्रकार द्रौपदी जी का भी जीवन आजीवन शिक्षा से जुड़ा रहा और वो टीचर के रूप में, शिक्षक के रूप में उन्होंने अपना जीवन प्रारंभ किया। बाद में वो
Well, Draupadi Murmu, the tribal face that we've been telling you on Times Now for the last 3 days. Draupadi Murmu, the presidential candidate announced by the NDA, the first tribal lady to be announced as the presidential candidate, and with the BJP and its partners and with support coming in from both Biju Janata Dal and YSR Congress, clearly numbers are not going to be a problem. Mr. Yashwant Sinha will have an uphill task to somehow upset that number in favor of Ms. Draupadi Murmu, who's the NDA presidential candidate. That's the big breaking news coming in, and that's the name Times Now had given to you several days ago, and that is the ultimate announcement that's coming up from the BJP headquarters today. We'll go back to the debate. And I want to ask you, Vaibhav Purandare. Vaibhav Purandare, we've been talking about the fact that somewhere or the other, the Shiv Sena has lost the most. Short-term gains, Chief Minister's post for Uddhav Thackeray over the last 2.5 years, but long-term erosion of base and the advantage really shifting to the NCP, while the Shiv Sena has had its most powerful leader, the tallest leader, the leader who's the grassroots leader carrying forward the legacy of Balasaheb Thackeray, today literally holding the gun to the Shiv Sena's head. What does that tell you about what's happened in Maharashtra and in the Shiv Sena of the last 2.5 years? I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, go on.
I think there's a lot of significance to Eknath Shinde being the leader of this rebellion within the Shiv Sena. When Chhagan Bhujbal left the Shiv Sena in 1991, in December 1991, he had 17 other MLAs with him. Now it appears that Shinde may have more than that. This makes it the biggest rebellion in the Shiv Sena's 56-year-old history. And why is Eknath Shinde so significant and a rebellion led by him so significant? Because he was the man taking care of the Shiv Sena flock when the MVA alliance was formed in 2009, and when Uddhav Thackeray took the biggest political risk of his career by aligning with forces that were ideologically incompatible with the Shiv Sena. It was a hardcore Shiv Sainik like Eknath Shinde who actually took care of the Sena flock and ensured that everybody stayed together. Now, when someone like him revolts, it reflects a very deep resentment within the party about what has happened in the past 2.5 years. That resentment has been brewing for quite some time. That resentment has a lot to do with the alleged dominance of the NCP in the workings of the government, in the fact that only a handful of people in the Shiv Sena, particularly those living at Matoshri and those very, very close to Matoshri, have been the beneficiaries of this government, and not the Sena rank and file, and not the loyalist Shiv Sainiks hardcore Shiv Sainiks. And when Shinde rebels against an arrangement which anyway is not ideologically compatible, it raises various question marks about what the Shiv Sena has gained in this sort of arrangement. There was considerable unease. There has been considerable unease within the Shiv Sena on the fact that somebody like Nawab Malik became some sort of a poster boy for the MVA government and became also its official spokesperson of sorts. And the compromise went to the extent that when the AIM-MIM said that we cannot vote for the Shiv Sena nominees, the Sena had to keep quiet and eat humble pie. Now, when you have such opportunistic alliances, and the Shiv Sena is by no means the only party that indulges in political opportunism. Every party indulges in political opportunism. But there are some trade-offs there.
And the price seemed to be just too high for the Shiv Sena to pay. And let me get in Reshma Patel as well. Reshma Patel of the NCP.
Navika, if I can just complete. Yeah. So the perception is that the trade-offs cannot be at the expense of the Shiv Sena. And the message that Eknath Shinde has sent and the MLAs with him have sent because of the sheer number is that the trade-offs have been at the expense of the Shiv Sena and Shiv Sainiks.
Absolutely. And Reshma Patel, today has the NCP dumped, has the NCP dumped, and let me take that question to Lokesh Jindal, has the NCP dumped the Congress and the Shiv Sena, and has it really been worth your while to be part as a junior partner in the Maharashtra alliance, Lokesh Jindal? Because it seems nothing really is in your hands. It is really up to the Shiv Sena which way it wants to go. Eknath Shinde, we understand, has given an ultimatum that if you go with the BJP, I can return, but not otherwise. Where does that leave you? And if you've had loss of face in the recent Rajya Sabha and MLC elections, you're going to have a loss of face even in the presidential polls with the BJP bolstering its numbers. So where is the Congress really headed?
See, it's too early so as to comment upon what's going to happen. First of all, when we are talking about Eknath Shinde, as he has rebelled, so he has to have sufficient numbers so that he doesn't come within the ambit of anti-defection, and then the entire mathematics is going to change. Secondly, when we are talking about the Congress in Maharashtra, it is strong. It is a very different stand altogether. The organization is still strong. It is very much committed. Congress has its own vote bank, has its own social base, and which is very much a die-hard Congress, you can say. So it's not that you can say that Congress is weak in Maharashtra. It is strong. Okay. All the MLAs are intact. So I don't
Anand
see...
Ranganathan, Congress going from strength to strength. Is that how you would describe the Congress today?
Navika, Congress is in power in the country in 2.5 states. So by tomorrow, I don't know whether it will be reduced to 2 or will remain 2.5. That remains to. But can I please say, a lot of my esteemed panelists are actually, kind of waxing eloquent about Mr. Shinde and his morality that has allowed him to speak. I'm sorry, I don't buy that at all. There is more to it than that. I mean, do you mean to say that since 1919, almost 3 years, Mr. Shinde was quiet till now, when he knew that ideologically polar opposites NCP and Congress were giving support to his party, and he was in power for 3 years, when during that time in the initial stages Shiv Sena walked out of CAA in Rajya Sabha, when Shiv Sena that had promised to rename Aurangabad because it was Aurangzeb's city, did nothing about it, and suddenly Mr. Shinde wakes up
and so did not take a position on Gyan Vapi either.
The fact of the matter is that yes, so suddenly he's woken up and realized that he was in a party that is immoral. I'm sorry, I don't buy that at all.
So Prafulla Ketkar, I want to ask you, Prafulla Ketkar, when the Shiv Sena all this while was not even taking action against those who were saying that loudspeakers for Azan are fine, and 15 minutes after the Azan there will be no bhajans that can be played, and when there was arrest of the Ranas that happened because Hanuman Chalisa was said to be recited near their house. And then, Gyan Vapi, so many other issues that came up. Clearly, Mr. Eknath Shinde at that time was part of the Shiv Sena. Why now? Why this decision to walk out now? Is it the BJP making the step and the overture, or is it really Eknath Shinde suddenly finding himself between a rock and a hard place?
No, Navika, I don't think so. See, the reality is recent developments after Rajya Sabha elections and MLC elections. He saw this as an opportunity because many MLAs have actually shifted and cross-voted in favor of BJP. Now, the issues that you have raised, they are clearly the signs that he must have got some sense about the, murmuring within the Shiv Sainiks, and where again I was specifically mentioning about the region he represents. There the fight is with the NCP, and if Manasseh MNS is going to pitch the high, now he is not keeping well, Raj Thackeray, but if he raises his pitch high on Hindutva ground, then who is going to be the loser? It's going to be Shiv Sena, and it is going to be Eknath Shinde's bastion that is going, that has been Shiv Sena's, in fact.
Well, ultimately, it is back to survival games for every single politician, and even this time around, whichever way you look at it,
yes,
Uddhav Thackeray seems to have dialed a number which is going to cause him pain, and many said that was the writing on the wall in 2019 with the compromise that he was making. But will he be able to come out of this storm? Will it just be a storm in a teacup? Or will it actually dismantle the government in Maharashtra? Well, the jury is still out and our reporters are still out. Not a dull moment in their lives since early morning today when we've been following Eknath Shinde, and the number again up for speculation, anything between 24 and 36. Which way is the Maharashtra government going to go? We'll keep following, and we'll keep keeping our viewers ahead on every developing information. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1, the big coup against Uddhav Thackeray.